Welcome to the Helix webinar series. Today's session is on BHOM 25.3 release, and we're going to be going through some key updates in observability and data collection. So joining me today is Amal Rastogi. He will do his formal introduction shortly. But before we get started, just a reminder for those in the attendees at the moment, we do have the Q&A section of Zoom, which you can find at the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions during this session, please put them in there. We will have roughly 15 to 20 minutes or so at the end where we can take your questions live. Just a reminder that you will remain unmuted, so the only formal communication you'll have is just sending us a question so we can get through the recording, and then once this is completed we will be sending out the content out to you. So I'm now going to hand over to Amol to do his introduction and get us started. Over to you, Amol.
Thanks, Samantha. I hope that I am audible. So my name is Anmol Rastogi. I am Principal Product Manager for BMC Helix Operations Management, as well as I am also owning from the product management perspective the data collection piece, which is including log analytics, knowledge modules, patrol agent, and also the BHOM core areas, right? So I'm also owning that. So with that, actually, let me start uh, uh, with the updates around what we did so far around the data collection, as well as some of the key features that I will highlight as a part of BHOM 25.3 release. So moving on to, so before we in fact jump into the slides to provide the update, it's just a legal notice that we recommend basically not to share this screens with anyone. You can keep this for your internal reference, but let's not keep this basically outside of your company. So please keep it within yourself. So that's a kind of a legal notice that we provide. Now, starting with the what's new section in 25.3 release, uh, I will just give you the holistic picture that what we did around the data collection, as well as some of the key updates around BHOM core area. So starting from the intelligent integration, we started to support the regular expression based filtering into the distributor and the collector side, where you can say that I need event filtering or the metric filtering based on this particular regular expression, right? And in that way you can have more granular level control to send what event and metric data that needs to be consolidated into the manager of manager, which is BHOM, for AI ops use cases. Also, along with that, now we have on-prem HA gateway, where no longer required the community version of Minayo or S3 storage, right? So prior to 25.3, customers required, if they are setting an on-prem II gateway for the HA capabilities, either to have Amazon S3 requirement, or probably to have the community-based Binayo version. So we realize that, I mean, customer will again need to spend money around purchasing these entitlement from the third party vendor. So now with 25.3 release with HA capabilities, HA gateway will use the internal ADE storage capabilities, object storage capabilities, so no longer required Minayo or S3 support. And we also improvise on the Netrio integration. Earlier, we were doing the Netrio integration for on-prem install, but now we also support the SaaS-based instance support for Netrio. One of the important thing to call out here is we also added support for the interruption alert, right? So whenever there is a pipeline, that is set up for ingesting an event and or metrics, and let's say that if there is any problem with the ingestion, or probably there is any problem with the pipeline. So we also provide an out-of-box alert in those scenarios, and I will cover briefly into that into my next follow-up slides as well. Around the knowledge modules, which is KM, we also improvise the existing synthetic monitoring to include more specific, URL monitoring, And also, we used to have one ISMKM, which is again a very old technologies. Now we consolidated that ISMKM into the synthetic monitoring as well, by including more option for doing the URL monitoring, as well as improvising how we can provide the more is in-depth messaging around the monitor attribute. So we improvised on that. We also improvise our existing Apache Kafka monitoring, and I will touch base on that. And then a few other updates around the Oracle Enterprise Database and infrastructure monitoring. So I will also provide some update around that in the brief slide, in the follow-up slide. Around the log analytics, we introduce an MSI-based installer where you no longer need to run an script to install the log connectors. Rather, you can use directly the MSI-based installer on your Windows machine so that the log analytics connectors get installed. We also provide the file encoding support to avoid any kind of error. We supports all sorts of encoding now. Along with that, we also give the options for doing and copy. So in case if somebody set an one alert policy, and then they don't want to start something from scratch to set up a new alert policy, then they can have a copy option and just tweak some of the options, and then immediately deploy that alert policies for doing the alert related functionality. Some of the key update around the BHOM core area we did is we improvised the performance of the BHOM by providing the pagination support to load policies. So as compared to when customer used to have like 6,000 policies, alarm policies or monitoring policies, the load time for those 6,000 policies or more than 6,000 policies take a lot of time, right? So we realized that, and then what we did is we added the pagination support. So now instead of loading, all 66,000 policies at once, we did the pagination. And then you can basically, see 100 top 100 policies, and after that 100 like that. So that also support is added. We also improvise on the alarm policy to honor the baseline violation, which can be depending upon the higher baseline or the lower baseline threshold breach. So that support is also added into the alarm policy. This is in line now with our existing auto anomaly feature, and I will show you some of the screenshot as well into the next slide. We also updated our refinement phase, which is part of our event enrichment policy, where customers can, have the dynamic enrichment in place to basically say that, okay, if this particular column matches, then if this particular event slot match with this string, and then I wanted to enrich further this particular event with this particular event messages, right? So that kind of support was earlier there into the advanced enrichment, but customer wanted this support into the refinement phase. And the reason for this is because uh, before blackout phase get executed, customer wanted to do enrichment, and customer wanted to add nodes into the event. That was only supported earlier into the advanced enrichment policies, which get executed usually after the blackout phase get executed. So customer has few specific asks where they wanted to achieve this enrichment use cases, as well as adding the node use cases before blackout runs. So we added this support into the refinement phase, which get executed before blackout. We also added couple of action support into the event as well as into the agent, and I can briefly touch base on that in my later slide. But just to give you insight on remote agent, where customer wanted to run some specific command on an agent. Currently, we do have the AQT tool, but then customer says that I have to log in into the AQT tool, and then I have to execute commands by typing it. But now we are giving this out of the box agent action from the tool itself, where customers can select the agent and then they execute the action on those agent which is exposed by the KMs. So KM has all inbuilt capabilities already, which is exposed, so customer can use that. Then also input-based manual event action. Earlier, we used to have in TSOP days the events that has to be executed some action, and then those actions required an input. For example, if I wanted to run an script, right, and if I run the script, then script requires certain input parameters to the script. So that option was earlier not coming through the trigger automation, but now that option is also coming through the trigger automation, where user can provide the input to the actions which they wanted to execute. So having said that, let's jump into little bit more in depth now, where I was talking about the intelligent integration piece, where there is already, as you can see in the distributor configuration, we have added the support for, the regular expression based filter for both device as well as metric filter. The device filters also applies for the event filter. This is device/event filter, and then matrix filter, right? So with this, basically, you can precisely control which event and metrics are forwarded to BMC Helix Operation Management for better AI of use cases, rather than you surface all the events and then go very specific to one event. So that option also added into the BMC Helix II. And by the way, since this is added on the distributor side, so this means this is applicable actually to all the intelligent integration. This is nothing specific to one intelligent integration. Then one of the key update as a part of 25.3 we did is, as I talked about that earlier, when somebody wanted to set up an gateway, II gateway for the HA configuration, then excuse me, then they need to basically have additional requirement for storing the configuration data, or I will rather say, if let's say one node goes to another node, then this has to be in sync. Basically, the both node has to be in sync, and that sync is through the configuration that is getting stored either into the AWS S3 storage bucket, or either into the BinIO. So this required an additional, licenses through the third-party vendors by the customer, and then customer was actually against this because this should be owned by completely BMC. So we recognize that, we took it forward now, where we provide support for an inbuilt Helix object storage, BMC Helix storage. So that means now customer can have installed the II gateway without even needing of this S3 or BinIO specific this, right? So this basically kind of like lower down the operational overhead. And this functionality, as I was talking about, it is applicable to BMC Helix object storage, which means the customer who has subscribed for our SaaS-based instance. So that means by default, it will be available for them. We are still looking for an option how we can do this for on-prem. So we are doing that. We identified few ways for that, and for on-prem install of BMC Helix, we should be able to achieve this in the next release as well. Netrio SaaS hosted Netrio. So we have an option now where you can say that the the Netrio instances is actually in SaaS or in on-prem. So once it is SaaS hosted Netrio instance, then users can configure all the APIs keys and the servers and all those detail, and then they can validate and create this pipeline for Netrio as well for SaaS-based instance. So this kind of like, consolidate the data pipeline into the operation management, and at the same time, it also, reduce the alert fatigue because now you are consolidating both a Netrio event or Netrio alert into the BMC Helix operation management. So that is what we did as a part of our Netrio story. And then uh, important piece that I would like to also call out here is the streaming interruption notification, right? So let's say, in case if for somehow or any reason there is event or probably metrics that is getting streamed through a II pipeline, it gets stopped. Maybe the services get stopped, or maybe some connection issues, or maybe some issues basically, which is stopping further any kind of uh, data streaming stop, right? So that basically that is getting identified through the heartbeat event. So in every iteration we send an heartbeat event along with what we are sending as a batch. And let's say that if heartbeat event remains unupdated for some time, let's say for 3 iterations, then we identify that, okay, since we are not receiving an heartbeat event, that means there is something wrong with the data pipeline. So that's how we tackle this use case. So this kind of like ensure an uninterrupted data flow for your AI ops use cases, or continuous operations around the business operation side, so that you can fastly triage your issues and the resolutions about what is went wrong with the data pipeline, and you can fix those issues. So we provided this support also into the intelligent integration. That was done actually in O1 release, 25.2.01 release. Uh, so you should be having this already available to you yourself. So this concluded, the previous slides concluded my II update. Now moving on to the KM side update. We also added, so we have the response code and monitoring status into the synthetic KM. So we added, more annotation support for providing the detailed error in case if there is a response code, and if that response code, represent any kind of failure, or any kind of any kind of warning information into the response code, where doing a ping monitoring, or you are monitoring, or where you are doing any kind of script execution, right? And during that execution, if there is any response code which has more granular level detail or error messages, so we will provide this through the annotation. So annotation feature was already available, but synthetic KM is actually adding more annotation around this response code and the monitoring status in this release. Then we also provided and support for Edge browser into the synthetic key, which was not there, so it is added now. Then also we provide a mechanism where you can say that I wanted to create a device, and then based on that device, the event should also get associated to my specific URL that I am monitoring, right? So we have this option also in the configuration of URL while doing URL monitoring, so that the event get associated, and then once the event get associated with the right URL, then you can actually drive the faster RCA, rather than the event getting associated with the agent, and then from agent you identify what URL you are monitoring and what URL has an impact of this particular event, right? So we overcome from this now in 25.3, so you can achieve your AI ops use cases with the clear and descriptive error messages, as well as more specific pinpoint problem to the device that is associated with this URL. So that is also done as a part of our synthetic KM improvement. Around the Apache Kafka, what we did is we provide the mapping of events. So as our approach here is more on going forward to provide the more specific root cause analysis to the customer. So rather than associating any event with the patrol agent, we are now giving options for users to associate the event to a particular, to a particular node or the software instance type, so that event get associated whenever it raised with the right CI type, and it shows the right impact into the AI of service model, so that you can drive more faster, root cause analysis. We also added additional capabilities into the Kafka client by providing the SSL certificate authentication as well, where user can provide the username, password, and they can select actually the SSL certificate also. So these are the two core capabilities we have improved in around the Apache Kafka tier. So we also have now introduced an monitoring of RAG instances, whether it's unavailable or available, it doesn't matter. Many times, customer put Oracle RAG instances into the maintenance mode, or probably, rather it goes into the passive node. It becomes the passive node, and in those scenarios also, customer wanted to run monitoring so that the node should always be available, be it active or be it passive, right? So that when the switch happen in those scenarios, the passive node should also be available. So that's basically required an active monitoring, so that it covers all the failover scenarios. So we have added these capabilities into the existing Oracle Enterprise KM. So that was the update on the Oracle side, and we also added in support to provide the consistent monitoring by giving an option to retain the persistent disk instances, where customers, let's say, we observe that whenever there is a restart or reboot happen around the Linux KM, so these name used to get changed, right? So instead of using those names, we give the options to use the persistence disk instances. There the name is actually remain static. This kind of like, whenever the event get arrived and get associated with the right disk, then it improves helping to achieve the faster RCM, even though your system gets reboot, right? So we introduce this new capabilities as a new option, configuration option into the Linux KM. Moving on to the next part, which is basically the BHOM code part. So in BHOM code part, what we did is in under the alarm policy, we have introduced, as you can see, that three options where it says that when the metric value violates the baseline, that means it will check both upper baseline as well as lower baseline, and whenever both the conditions met, then that means it will create an alarm based on this condition. But there are specific use cases where, for example, customer wanted to generate an event. Just take an example of if somebody is doing a URL monitoring and they are monitoring a response time, right? So the lower the response time, it is always considered good, right? And customer do not want to get an alert under those scenarios. So what they can do is they can say that I want response time alarm generation for this particular time period, but it should not basically say it should not violates the it should always violates my high baseline. It should not violate my low baseline. So when I select only this option, matrix value violates high baseline, that means the alarm will only be generated when the high baseline is deviation happen around the high baseline. But if the low baseline is deviation is happening because user has not selected this option, so that means it will ignore it, right? Because that's the option user has configured, right? So we have all these options now available out of the box into the alarm policies that can be used for achieving the specific use cases, or for achieving some specific scenarios. So this was around the alarm policies. Uh, as I mentioned, under the refinement policies which get executed even before blackout policies, as a part of advanced management, we have added support for data table lookup, where you can actually do an event management before it goes to the blackout. And also in scenarios where customer wanted to add some nodes to the events, where they wanted to say, you know this particular events created, and then this particular event where it goes to blackout, do not take any actions, or probably take certain action. I wanted to add that node to the event before it goes to the blackout, right? So I can add that node. Even for other scenarios also, I can add the nodes, not necessarily for blackout period, but the refinement, as the refinement phase get executed before blackout. So customers are asking these specific scenarios to be supported into the refinement policies. So we have added these support now. Moving on to the important things to call it out from the event action perspective, as I mentioned that we have added a support for manual actions. So let's say if I have an event into my BMC Helix environment and I wanted to execute an action on this, as you can see in this particular scenarios, I have an event and I have selected this event uh, and I have clicked on the trigger automation option, right? So once I clicked on the trigger automation, I have this demo policy hyphen new automation. Again, this automation before it basically appear here, it has to be configured into the IA intelligent automation, where customers or the users of the IA has to configure this policy by saying that this policy needs to be run manually and then it's required this and that input, right? All things. So all this basic the basic flow or the basic structure of this policy which is which is requiring an input has to be configured in the backend, which is IA here. So once IA basically define this structure, that those structure is actually rendered here once it is associated with this event, right? So as you can see, when I click on this, it's basically bring up another pop-up here where it is asking to put the variables that was expected as a part of this this intelligent automation of execution. So once I input this, it also, by the way, support the event slot, which can also be, treated into, which can also be passed into this variables. So once I set up all this information, I can click on the run automation and these inputs are passed basically to my IA policy, and then IA policy take care of this as an input and pass it to the, again, pass it for the further execution. So in that way, actually, it's basically become an guided input because these are all pre-approved guided inputs for the users or the operators. So this way, basically, the issues can be fixed quite quickly rather than everything triggering automatically without even having an input requirement. I mean, of course, there will be a requirement where customer wanted to run the automation without even requiring any input. So for that flow already exists. This is an additional enhancement to the existing flow. So that's another thing that we have improvised. And on the agent action side, uh, what we have introduced, as you can see that I've selected the agent here. As you can see, I have selected the agent, and then from if the KM, for example, in this case, this is in my infrastructure KM, which is Windows operating system KM, which is exposing these agent action to be executed on my agent boxes. So let's say if this is enabled as a part of KM, then you will click on the agent action and you will see these actions which are actually can get executed, right? So for example, now I have a event that says my CPU utilization crosses 80%, right? So I can immediately go and I can run my agent action based on this CPU process, that which CPU process is actually taking, which process is actually utilizing my CPU, right? So I can actually get this list by executing it. So that means you are getting an information back by executing this command, right? So earlier it was through the AQT tool where you have to go and run the queries by logging into the agent, but that now is actually uh, available as an out of the box capability in the product itself, so that you can faster fix all the problems without even hoping through the multiple tool, or maybe logging into the agent or collecting the diagnostic reports and things like that, right? So this capabilities was there earlier, but now we have also introduced in BHOM. It was there as a part of TSOM, which we have introduced now. So this was actually my last slide, and here actually We have all the link to the documents, which you can utilize it for all the information that I have talked about. It is much more detail about what issues we fix, what issues we did not fix, what is known issues, all informations we have here. So with this, I will hand it over to Samantha. Samantha, you are there? All right. Maybe she's on mute, but let me tell you about that. We have this, Gartner peer review where you can actually scan this code, scan this QR code, and you can actually, review our product. You can provide inputs, and there is a, gift card, $25 gift card for the eligible reviewer. You can get in touch with Samantha or me how to claim this once you posted your review, so we can also delve into those reviews comment from you. The next slide is more about the road shows where we are demonstrating our capabilities both from the business perspective and both from the product perspective. We have already executed few of them till August. There are few pipeline around the September and October and November month. So in case if you are available into this region, or if you plan to basically go want to attend, just get in touch with BMC team.
I was going to say we're actually going to be in Stockholm's the next one on September, and then obviously Sao Paulo and Riyadh. I will share out the links with those in the meeting today, just with the ones that are live, so you can come and join those. So obviously, as Amol said, we've already done London, Mumbai, and Melbourne, which was a real success. If you do want to meet the product managers in person, it's a perfect opportunity to come and meet with us. So I will share that out, Amal, obviously, when we share the slides out, all of the links, and also a little bit of a plug with Amal's colleagues. We're going to be doing the Agentic Ascent. So September the 10th, we will be running a session around ITOM. So that'll be the 6 flagship features that will be covered. I will share that link out as well. So there's a lot of really good content coming up.
Yeah.
Hi, Samantha. I have a few questions, but the chat is disabled. I have actually written down those questions in my notepad. So
Oh,
can I
okay.
enable chat for a minute? Yeah, I
Well,
just
yes,
post
we
the
can we
questions.
yeah, let us move into the Q&A. You've actually brought us into the segue to the Q&A, and we're never really sure how long sessions take, but we always have at least 20 minutes at the end. So I can see we have a couple of questions in the Q&A, but Sivia, if you want to ask your questions first, or you can put them in the chat, whatever's easiest for you.
Yeah, but the chat is disabled. That's what I was saying.
Not
Oh, there is a Q&A
yeah,
chat. I need
yeah.
to add
They
there. Is
call
it
it
okay?
Q&A, so we disable the chat because it's
Oh,
very
got it.
difficult to follow. But if you put that, perfect, that's exactly what we need. Because the reason we do this is because we can track it, and it means we can send you a follow-up response straight after. We'll put a blog post together because obviously some of your questions are useful to others. So do you want to just talk through your first question for Amal? He can answer that, then we'll go through your second one, and then we'll go to Anapan's.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Samantha, for giving me an opportunity. So in the event when you are doing remote agent execution, which is much like a self-healing or automatic remediation script, which is supported in many other tools as well. So when you execute that script, some contextual information generally will be passed. For example, what is the event, what was the specific CI that was affected, that kind of details. So my question is very general because I'm new to the product, BMC product right now. So that you are also sending event event meta information to
Yep.
that remote agent script. Yes or no?
Yep.
That was my question.
Yes, yes. So we send this metadata information along with the event action. So I think you are referring to the event action. My understanding is that so
Yeah.
agent action is different and event action is different. So event, when you are setting up an IA flow, basically, for this event action. So at that time,
Yeah.
you can define, what information that you wanted to pass from this event. First of all, the input and what information that you wanted to send as a part of this event. So that also you can define through the IA flow, IA policy flow.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that answers my question. Thanks,
Yeah.
Anmol. The second question is, there is an event enrichment feature where you can also pull some information from tables or some kind of text database, whatever.
Right.
And there are some cases where customer doesn't want to use Helix event management, but they
Mm-hmm.
have, like Helix, they have 10 systems where events are coming from. So they're using separate event management tool in their work. For example, iTom and Snow is one example. Or you have like Event Hub or Alert Hub, that kind of like you have other products also. So in such
Mm-hmm.
cases where I want event enrichment to be limited, because there are other systems who will also add more fields to the event. So is it like customizable that certain fields I can populate and in event and certain fields I can leave for the next system to handle?
Yes. Yes. So you can very well do that. So you can actually define that, what event slot that you want to be bring in as a part of your event ingestion from third party to BHOM, right? So that capability is existing into the system. And then based on those event slot, you can perform the event enrichment. So that is also a doable thing in BHOM.
Okay, thank you. My last question is about intelligent automation.
Yep.
So, yeah, there are generally two workflows enabled in every like product. Like one is without approvals and with approvals. So, some
Uh-huh.
example I can quote based on my experience with App Dynamics is you will receive, I mean, in a no approval workflow, if there is a action to be performed, it will be straight away executed, provided the script everything exists. In second
Mm-hmm.
scenario, I want some manager or someone who's owner of that CA to be sent with a link to run the action
Mm-hmm.
or not. And that guy will receive the person will receive the email, and when he clicks the link, then only the action will be performed. So I
Okay.
understand the direct workflow was already there, and manual is something that you included recently in this session I
Right.
learned. So will this
Right.
manual cover that email approval thing also?
So as of now, we are looking into this. Right now, it is with the default framework where the approval workflow is not yet implemented. We
Okay.
are working on the future roadmap. So once I will maybe once I will come into 25.4, I will be able to give you more update around that. But we are working on that. We recognize this basically.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. You answered all my questions. Thanks, Anmol. Thanks,
Thank,
Samantha,
All
for
right.
giving me
yeah,
an opportunity.
thank you for your questions. Okay, so we'll go back to the Q&A. So Anapan had a couple of questions. I don't know, Anapan, if you can hear us. Let me just check you're still there. If you want to come off mute, otherwise I can read out your questions. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Samantha. Hi, Anmol. I have two questions which I have asked. The very first is around something related to the roadmap, like if there are any such plans to introduce AI features which are more driven around the suggestive features or action taking features on the policies, thresholds, actions,
Uh-huh.
as so that these days these are like some kind of expectations are happening from the customer, and they expect, like, if they are not investing that much analysis on each and every events that are happening, then the tool should be intelligent enough to give them suggestions around what is a good for the operations, or what kind of suggestive measures are there for any such changes are required in a threshold based on how the trends are happening. So
Uh-huh.
any such plan is there in future? Maybe that's the first
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, good question. I think what we need to do, probably we need to do more deep dive session, I think, with you to understand these use cases. But the thresholding part is actually done as a part of our baselining
Mhm.
and as a part of the auto anomaly feature. So we did this already. Now,
Okay.
what we are doing is also we are building in capabilities to achieve a dynamic threshold where you no longer need to configure any threshold into the alarm policies. Rather than it should be picked up by the trend, as you mentioned. So we are building this story also into the existing alarm policy. Right now it is existing, but still it is manual right now, I will say, right? So but it still exists because where you need to go to the alarm policy and you have to still say, your threshold violates baseline, then only you wanted to have an event and all those things, right? So that is still manual at this moment, but we wanted to avoid all these manual steps and make it more intelligent, where based on this baseline we give suggestions that okay, for this particular server you have set up, you need to basically probably override this threshold based on the time or based on the load, right? So we are working on that, still into the discussion, not yet finalized as a roadmap item.
Understood. Yeah. Okay, another question is around the agent action. I saw there is a selection checkbox was there, which is around
Right.
the diagnostic report. So
Right.
just wanted to understand exactly what output it gives and is it like, is it changing on the basis of the events that are coming into your event console, or how is it? Because
Yes.
I'm trying to relate this with the very old feature of BPPM and proactive net when there used to
Yeah.
be a detailed diagnostic feature used to be there. So
Yes.
that
So
gives
this
you
is
all sort of CPU command and memory commands output based on the events and the logic of this kind of. So is it something
right.
like that, or?
Similar, same thing. We have not changed this, right? So this is mainly exposed through the KMs, right? And the KM knows that what action as an expertise on this particular area can be executed and give output based on those input, right? So this is actually aligned what you are saying. In TSOM, back in TSOM days, we used to have these agent action, which was again exposed by the KM. And those are the things that we achieved into BHOM right now. So exactly,
Okay.
I mean,
I believe like this is all out of the box available without any sort of configurations, right? Because earlier,
yeah.
like you need to configure the remote agent actions like that.
So as I mentioned that as a part of agent action, right?
Mhm.
The KM should be enabled. I mean, KM should have
Yeah,
the
yeah.
agent actions inbuilt, right? So once it has, it will expose. There's no
Oh,
extra configuration is required.
okay. Okay. Understood. I think that's it from my end. Thanks, Anmol. Thanks,
All
Anmol.
right.
Thank you for your questions. And I also see there is a more, not so much a question, Amol, but more considering South Africa for future roadmaps. I don't know if Nomza is still there. Maybe Nomza, you could just give us a bit of background or what the requirements might be that you need. Can you hear us? Hello.
So hi, good morning. From
Morning.
our end, so we just started using the BOM. We are about to actually start using it. So it'll be more insightful for us to have like more of a webinar or an event where training is offered and post that we always have like a test lab, like how we do with control and stuff. So
Mhm.
because currently we're using TSOM, so we're working towards transitioning to BOM. So having insights and being included, it'll really mean a lot.
Okay. So yes, Samantha, I think we need to take this as an action item on us. So I
Mm-hmm.
will work to see how we can more frequently do this
Mm-hmm.
uh, in the South Africa region, especially.
Okay, Nomza, I'll put some contact details out because I know that there's quite a lot of content. There is, I think we did also a webinar, I'm trying to remember, a couple of months ago where it was talking about the transition from TSOM to BHOM to AIOps. I'm not sure if you managed to watch that, but there's probably also some content that might be useful. Plus, if you have a CSM or an account manager, it may be that they can help you through that transition path, but I'll drop you some details offline.
Thank you.
Pleasure, no problem. Okay, and I can see, Ferry, you did have your hand patiently raised. Do you want to come off of mute? Do you have a question for us? Can you hear us? Hey, Ferry, can you hear us? I saw you come off and then go back on. Do you want to try again?
Yeah.
He did come off, and I went to go and unmute him again, and then I think
Good
he muted
morning.
himself. Hello, good morning.
Good
Hey.
morning. Hi.
I think we were
Hi,
playing
Samantha.
tag of unmuting each
Yeah,
other.
yeah. That's the case. I have one question about the event actions. Is there the possibility to prepare a drop-down list for the operators who use the event actions to select a value out of a list? Or is that just free text in fields?
Yeah. So good question, and I was expecting these questions to come out. Yes, there is a phase 2 approach that we are working on right now. So in phase 1, we added the support only for the text-based input, which is actually a string. Now, as a next phase, what we are doing is we are improvising on this, where you will be able to see, you will be able to select from the drop down the options that are available or exposed through the intelligent automation policy workflow. So yes, that's a work in progress right now.
It's a work in progress, but
Yeah.
came in the future. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's all our questions at the moment, Amol. I will ask if anyone's got any other questions, if you want to come off mute, or pop into the Q&A. We do, while we're waiting to see if there's any further questions, we do have this same session being run this evening for IST. So if you do have any colleagues in the EMEA region, that will be 4 p.m. BST, or for Central Time, 5 p.m. I will correlate all of the Q&A together and send that out as part of the thank you email, so you will get to see what everyone else is asking. It's a shared blog post. We will share the recording. We will also share the slides. And if there are further questions or any help that you need, within the thank you email will be a survey, and it takes you a few minutes to fill in. If you do want to follow up, do let us know, and I will pass that on to Amol.